afternoon, beautiful viewers, wherever you might be watching us from. It is your favorite program, Doc Jesus on Nation Building, that comes your way on Fine TV Gambia, your only viewpoint. I remain your host, Fatoumata Jaba. In our today's program, we are here with the Deputy Secretary for Foreign Affairs, the United Democratic Party. But before we get into the program proper, we will first allow him to tell us who he is. Sir, you're welcome to our platform.
Thank you very much.
This is your first time to appear on our platform, which is Fine TV Gambia.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be with you. Yes, this is my first program, and I hope it will be a first in a series. Yes, I am Lamin Manneh. My family hails from Nyomi, Jinak to be precise, and I was born in Kaur, in what used to be MID, Makati Island Division, now is the CRR. And my father was based in Brufut after my grandparents from my father's side left Jinaki Jatako. They settled in Brufut. My mom's side went to Kaur. So I was born in Kaur, grew up in Kaur until I finished my primary school and then moved to the Gambia High School. And from there I went to study international law in France. I did a bachelor's in international public law, or rather public international law in Grenoble in France, and then I went on to do a master's in Dijon. So I hold a master's in public international law. Then afterwards I worked for the Senegambia Confederation for about 3.5 years, and went to the US where I read development management, and then afterwards came back and then went back to the UK, where I read translation interpretation as well. So multifaceted and probably, but very good. There is a number of strings to my bow, which is very useful, I found out later in my career. So after that, I worked for the African Development Bank for 28 years. And I worked all over the continent and was in different places and worked in different projects on different areas of the continent, traveled virtually the whole continent, etc. So I retired and came back home in December 2019. So basically, in a nutshell, that's Lamin Manneh.
Thank you so much for that wonderful insight. And then, Doctor, we have seen that you come back to the Gambia and then you involve yourself into politics. Can you tell us what are some of the reasons why?
Very good question. Thank you. Because when I was coming back home, essentially I wanted to come back and enjoy my retirement. Coming back home after, basically I lived all my professional life outside the Gambia. I worked only 3 months at the President's office in the Gambia here under President Jawara. The rest of the time I was outside the country. So I thought this is a period to come back home, get more acquainted with my country again, with old friends, and and get to know the country a bit more, and devote myself to other things, consultancies, my religion, etc. But when I got back home, well, actually, before coming home, we did see that things weren't going the way we hoped they would after the change in regime. We were in politics from a distance because as international civil servants, you are required to have a certain amount of retinue, a certain amount of distance from politics. So we, although we were involved in politics, but just from a distance. It's when I came back in 2016 briefly during the campaign period to see what was happening, and then got much more involved at the time, and then went back, but still was from a distance. And after the change in regime, we were all very hopeful. And we met at the time, the former Foreign Secretary, Mr. Dabo, and Finance Secretary, Finance Minister rather, Mr. Sane. They were coming to the African Development Bank for different types of negotiations, for debt relief, for assistance to the country, and new loans and new programs. So I met them there and had a lot of discussions with them. But I was following the political scene very closely. And then we saw that things weren't going the way we hoped they would. And we were getting worried. But when I came back home and saw the situation was actually worse than I had thought it was, I thought, look, I don't have a right to stay in my corner, enjoy my retirement when my country is going down the drain. It would have been much more convenient for me to just sit back and enjoy my retirement after so many years abroad working. But you can't just stay away and see your country going down the drain and you just mind your own business in your corner. It's wrong. So I thought I must come into politics and do what I can to salvage the situation. Exactly. We all have a contribution to make, and I will make my contribution the way I could. So I looked around, talked to a number of political parties and their officials. I knew some of them before, and talked to others and tried to see who had what program. But I knew a lot more about UDP already anyway. But I was open about it, talked to so many other people, and then, of course, I saw that because I was going to politics for a program, for policies, not for emotional reasons, not for personal reasons. I wasn't going there because I like ABC or XYZ is from my tribe or my family or my region. That's not interested. I wasn't interested in that. I wanted to see who has a policy for the country rather. I won't say continent because of my professional idiosyncrasy. I was ADB, we were working on the continent all the time. But yeah, this is country. Sure. So I was looking at who has the best policies for the country, who has what it takes to take the Gambia to where we want to see it go. The more I discussed with the parties and the officials, the more I was convinced that yes, UDP is the party need to be there. Sure. So I opted for the UDP. Sat with Mr. Dabo and Mr. Sane and we had a long chat, and Ajiyam Seka, Ajiyam Mundau, the officials, and we had a chat, and I was convinced, and I joined the party much more officially. I was from a distance, but now I joined officially and thought, okay, this is the time to go in and make my contributions to the country. So that's how I got into politics and to UDP. Full time. And then you choose UDP over those political parties? Yes, because I thought their policies are much more aligned with what I was thinking for the country. And can you tell us some of those policies? Right. One of the things when we discuss is how do you see this country moving from where we are? They said we are developing actually what we call a 5-point agenda. I said, what is that about? And they told me the 5 key thrust areas they were putting emphasis on to develop this country, which was very good. Human development. Because we need to get our youth to be really well grounded in their different fields. Sure. Give them the education they need to be either employable or self-employable. That would take care for it to a large extent this backway syndrome. Sure. Okay. So that human development, because development is all about people. So when you do the human development, you take the country to the next stage, because when you have a good, well-trained workforce in different sectors, you are ready to take off. If you have a bad education system and bad human development, you would have poor doctors, you would have poor engineers, you would have poor nurses, poor teachers, etc. So it starts with the person, the human being, the person, human development. When you do that, you are ready to move to the next stage. Exactly. And then they said after that we're working on energy. We're working on the health sector. We're working. So the 5 points of the agenda, the 5-point agenda was very comprehensive. And I said, okay, but the country has much more to do than just those 5 points. Say, yeah, these are the 5 points which will be the priority sectors. But in addition, there were 13 other sectors. So actually, it's a comprehensive list of projects and areas in which the party wanted to deploy. But these were the 5 key areas which are the most pressing, in which on which they wanted to focus and give priority and emphasis. And I thought that was quite good, because you just cannot do it all at the same time, and you have to have certain areas which become priority areas. And one of those priority areas I thought which was very good was agriculture. Because that is the backbone and the backstay of this country. Our development has to be based on agriculture, has to be based on processing and transformation. We have to do that. If we cannot do that, we are going to continue being a really dependent country. We have to produce our food, and we can. Sure. This country is gifted from that point of view. We have to be able to process that and get food self-sufficient. But we'll come to those areas, I believe, in due course. But these are the areas they were looking at. And I thought those were very important, because if you have a program of government, you hit the ground running. You don't wait until you get to government and start doing, okay, what do I do? How do I do this? So they were already thinking ahead, putting together a program of government, putting together the policies and strategies for implementing that, looking at the human resources which are going to be useful for implementing those programs, and very importantly, costing those programs. UDP was costing those programs. How much is it going to cost me to do this? Where am I going to get the money from? I thought, this is a good party. This is a party that's serious. This is not going to be, let's just try what works. They were already strategizing. They were thinking ahead, and not in an amateurish way. They were doing it in a professional way. If you cannot cost and count, you cannot evaluate. So they were already putting together programs, costing them. How much is it going to cost me to do this? Where do I get the resources? How do I implement it? With who? Over what period of time? That is what we need. That is serious government. So I thought, this is the kind of thing I want to get involved in. Okay. So we started working on that, and I started getting to know a bit more of the people behind the scenes who were working on all of those programs, and we worked together, and it was a very fulfilling exercise. Yeah. So I thought, this is the party I want to be in. That was it. Yeah. Okay,
now that was great. During the 2021 elections, some people believe that UDP would have won due to your large followers. But we have seen that IEC declared MPP's candidate as the winner. But what went wrong?
What went wrong is very simple. It's manipulation of election results. I was privileged to be on the UDP's election, let me just call it powerhouse. Okay. Where we were monitoring the election results. We set up a group of people who were monitoring results as they were coming in. Because this country fortunately now has spot counting. So as the results were being counted in the polling stations, they were being transferred to the different political parties and agencies and their headquarters. So we were getting information in real time. So we saw the information, the results coming in, and we were happy because we were winning, and we were winning big. Okay. And those results came until about 10 o'clock, 10:30, and they just stopped abruptly. We were having no more results. And that was funny, because all of a sudden our agents were not reachable, we couldn't have any data, and we said, what's happening here? So it was a blackout. And when the results finally started coming in, about 3, 4 in the morning, the trend had been flipped, and we started losing. So this is not right. Something is wrong here. So we tried to find out what was wrong. We couldn't get our agents. It took until the following day we sent people out into the field to go check what happened. Why weren't we getting the results? And then we saw the foul play that took place.
What was that foul play?
The foul play was simply that our polling agents were tampered with. And they were not communicating the results to us. So some of these people tell you, oh, we were just getting discouraged, and we say, discouraged for what? Some say we saw we were losing in certain other areas, and we were disheartened, and we were feeling humiliated, so we just left. It was just a flimsy excuse. And we got to realize that actually they were tampered with. They were, to put it bluntly, corrupted. So we couldn't get our results, so we had to go around to pick the results. And we did our own tallying. And we went to work to see what went wrong. Because we decided at that point we were going to challenge those election results because something went fundamentally wrong. So we went ahead and did our data mining of the election results and did everything that we could. We checked the voter rolls, we checked so many things. And we put together a solid election petition which we took to the Supreme Court. Because you have to remember that UDP is a very law-abiding party.
Okay.
And the mantra for the party is the rule of law. When those results were announced in December, 5th December, and people congregated to Mr. Dabo's house because the party militants were angry, they knew that with the support we have, with the mobilization and commitment of our supporters, there was no way we had lost that election, and with that sort of margin. So people wanted to demonstrate, to go out on the streets and do what it took to change the country. But that would have been chaos in the country. And Mr. Dabo came out and said, no, we want to rule this country, but we don't want to get to State House wading in pools of blood. Said, you are all young people. I want you to grow up and have wives and husbands and children. I don't want you dying. And I will not send you out to the streets to get killed. Because there's a strong likelihood that if you go out there, the security forces will confront you and there will be chaos, there will be bloodshed. Say, I don't want to go to State House walking in people's blood. So he calmed them down. He, as I kept saying, he went to the point of singing for them, because of calm them down.
Exactly.
If he had been another kind of head of party, he would have just said, yes, go out. And the country would have been burned down. But no, that's not the kind of politician he is. He's a statesman. He is somebody who has the country at heart, who wants a change in this country, but through the ballot box, by complying with the rule of law. So he went ahead and calmed the militants and eventually managed to get his way for them to go home and wait. Tell them, we are going to challenge this in the courts. That's the way to go, not to burn this country down. And we all agreed with that. Some reluctantly, but we agreed with that.
Yeah, sure.
So we went to the Supreme Court, and unfortunately our petition was thrown out for technical reasons. And we keep saying that we had a good team of lawyers who did a good...
And what were those technical reasons?
Basically, we were told that we didn't deliver the summons directly to the head of state.
Okay.
We gave it to the chief of protocol, which is the normal thing to do. But because we didn't hand deliver it to him, basically that was the reason why the petition was thrown out. So, you know, it was difficult to take, but again, as a law-abiding party, we bit the bullet and said, okay, we are not treated fairly. We were cheated at the polls, but this country is worth the sacrifice. Let's call it a day and work for 2026.
Exactly.
A number of people were very much reluctant to have that, but we managed to influence them to go that way because that's the way to go. But we said that from now on, we're going to do what it takes to make sure that no one again will steal our victory.
Exactly.
We will not be robbed of victory anymore. So we started working on that as well. So, and now we think we are there.
Okay, you also made mention that your agents were corrupted. Could you please elaborate more on that?
I can, but for political reasons, I think I would rather not do that now.
Okay.
Because we don't want to embarrass certain people. So we just leave it at that. That did happen, and we have solid evidence of that.
Okay.
But I think we would just let that lie the way we let it.
So maybe we can just leave it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, we've attended one of your political rallies at Busumbala, and you clearly stated that election malpractice would never happen in the Gambia.
Yes.
Could you please tell us more about that?
Right. Because, you know, as I said, we are lucky to have on-the-spot counting in the Gambia.
Sure.
So the results get counted at the polling stations and results and declared. Once we have the results in the polling stations, those results are transferred to what are called collation centers. And the collation centers simply means the point where the results are combined, aggregated. And where the trick is, from the polling station to the collation centers, that's where the results get tampered with. So what we decided to do is we set up our own election infrastructure. soft infrastructure, which means that now, when the votes are counted at the polling stations, our agents will input the results directly into our software, and we will have the results in real time. So by the time they get to the collation center, if anybody tries to play hanky-panky with those results, you say in this center we have so many votes for UDP, for NPP, for GDC, etc., etc., and which does not correspond to what we have, we can call you out and we will refuse those results. Because we all have the same raw material, that is the polling results from the polling booths. What we have is what IEC has, is what any other political party has. So we all will get the same results, signed by the polling agents and the presiding officers. So that is enough material evidence. So we will have that with us. If you try to play with that, it will not happen. Because we have this computerized and secured. Because there are attempts to tamper with our system, to infiltrate, but that will not happen. So our results will be secured. When we have those results and they are input in the computer, and the computer does the crunching of the numbers. So it updates the numbers as they come in. So for every polling area, collation center, regional centers, we will have the results in real time. So if the government, or rather should I say the IEC, decides to take forever to publish the results, we will have our results already. And we will send it to our different agents in those stations. So if they publish anything different from this, it's fraud. Because we have the same. And we can easily prove that. Because those data from the polling stations will be available to us, will be computerized, and will be readily available for any jurisdiction in this country which is supposed to look at those, or for any election monitors who will hear. Everybody will have access to the same information. What IEC receives is what we receive. So the results cannot be different. So we are ready for that, because we do not intend to get to the situation where this country goes into conflict because of election results. We do not want to see blood spill in this country, but we will not accept that our results, our victory is being taken away from us again. That will not happen. So that's where we are.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, let's talk about the former president's bill. What's your take on this bill?
I think it's a most unfortunate situation. A former president's bill is supposed to be thoroughly discussed at the National Assembly and scrutinized properly, so that what comes out of that scrutiny is a document that is acceptable to everybody. A former president is a senior person in this country, a senior statesperson. And that statesperson should be given due respect and should have certain privileges, but not the kind of privileges they wanted to give him. That is not acceptable. And also there will be caveats saying a president who comes to this country and is in the presidency for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and who loots our resources. You cannot loot our resources and then we reward you for the wrong conduct. You have been stealing from our resources and we're going to reward you for that? No way. You have been here, you violate people's human rights. You violate the rights of the Gambian people. And you expect us to reward you for the wrongdoing? No. No. That will not happen. So the caveats in that former president's bill should be that it will be based on proper management of the country. A president who properly manages his country like we expect them to do. Because you have to remember, we hire them. They are our servants. They work for us and we pay them. And we pay them very handsomely.
Sure.
The current president receives about $500,000 every month, tax-free. On top of that, he's given $150,000 a day for feeding. He's given free vehicles, free fuel, free medical cover, free everything. We will not give you that and pay for all of that and not expect you to deliver on your terms of reference. So that is what we expect from a former head of state. What you get at the end of your term in office will be determined by how you run this country, how you protect the Gambian citizens. You protect our rights and privileges. You run our economy properly. You get the privileges that go with that. And you should be given due respect and proper treatment and certain privileges. But certain privileges, you cannot expect us to pay a sitting president the same salary we would pay to a former president. Where does that happen? Nowhere. When a civil servant or any other person retires from an institution, you are paid a percentage of your last salary. I was an international civil servant all my life, virtually. When I retired, I am paid a percentage of my last salary at the African Development Bank. That's what I get as a pension. And I get a few things that go with it. So, that is the sort of thing you expect. We would pay the former president a certain percentage of their salary if those caveats I mentioned are there. You pay them that. You provide them with diplomatic immunity. You provide them with diplomatic passports. You provide them with a certain amount of protocol, vehicles. That should be enough. They have to cover residents? No. No. Take care of your own residents. We have given you a comfortable salary for 5 years, for 10 years. You should be able to save from that to have a good house for yourself.
Sure.
So we are not going to pay for a house for you. No? We can give certain privileges for the house, pay certain things, etc., utilities, household staff, etc. Yes, but don't ask the Gambian for too much. There's need to be content with what you have.
Exactly.
So those are the sort of things. But there are so many things in the bill, like it tell you if the former president goes once, he'll have 1 month of vacation every year. For God's sake, he's already you're retired. He's on permanent vacation. Why do we need to pay for vacation for him? And they tell you he will go on vacation wherever he likes. Look at the hotels around the world. Some are so expensive. I don't know. There is a hotel in Dubai called Burj Al Arab, which is the only 6 or 7-star hotel in the world. The rooms are tens of thousands of dollars a day.
That is what you pay?
For that room, for that hotel. So should he tell us, I want to go on vacation this year to Dubai, I want to go to Burj Al Arab, because the bill said anywhere in the world of his choice. So should he say, I'm going to Burj Al Arab, we are stuck for 1 month. We would have to pay tens of thousands of dollars a day for that hotel, for him and his family. So these are the sort of things that cannot stand in a bill. These are the sort of things that need to be properly scrutinized and taken out. The president is already supposed to be on permanent leave. He is retired. So if he wants to do something else, he does it at his own expense. He wants to go on vacation, he goes at his own expense. We are not supposed to pay for all of that. We give him a certain amount of privileges, but not spoil him unduly. So that bill was very poorly inspired by a minister who was probably trying to safeguard his own position and put those kind of provisions in a bill to please the president. But the president himself, he's the one I blame for that. You get that sort of bill and say, no. Out of decency, I cannot ask the Gambian people to endorse this for me. He should have refused that. He should have refused that. He's been given a lot already. He should have said, no, I can't ask this, I can't ask for this. And ask the minister to take those provisions out. So this is where we are. And especially we are at a time where this government has run this economy into the ground. We are in a very difficult economic situation. The country is debt distressed. We are at a point this country owes about $109 billion in domestic and foreign debt combined. which we have to pay. And that debt is growing exponentially each year. When Barrow government came to power, our debt, internal, external combined, was about $47 billion over a 50-year period between Jawara and Jammeh. In 7 years, he added over $50 billion to that. Jawara and Jammeh combined, the debt they left this country, Adam Barrow, in 7 years, indebted us for more than what those people did in 50 years.
That is quite serious.
And our economy is in the doldrums. This country right now, we used to export groundnuts, we used to export cotton, we used to export fisheries products, etc., etc. Now what do we export in this country? Nothing. Nothing. So we are importing virtually everything, and we're exporting nothing.
Absolutely.
And that is why the dollar is depreciating the way it is.
In value.
Because the currency is based on the real economy. There's no real economy to support our dollar. So the dollar is plummeting. About 25% of the value of the dollar has been wiped off in the past 12 months. 25% of the value of the dollar has been lost in the past 12 months. At that rate, we will be in very serious trouble in the next 2 to 3 years. The dollar could become virtually worthless. You see, a country, this is not rocket science. A country's economy is what determines what your currency is. And if you have that kind of poor currency, everything increases. A lot of our debt is denominated in dollars and euros. The dollar is plummeting against those currencies. So our debt will increase exponentially. By the mechanical effect of the dollar depreciating, the value of our debt, or rather not the value, the amount of our debt goes up. So what we should be paying this year will be so much, will increase about 20-25% next year, simply because the dollar lost its value. Because if you buy the dollar at $57, $58 in 2022, in 2020, end of 2023, the dollar would be worth about $63, $64, or even 66, 7, depending on where you buy it, to the dollar. Next year, we can easily hit $80 to the dollar if this trend continues. So there's every reason to arrest this trend. If they don't arrest it, next year we can buy the dollar at $80 by the end of December 2024. So which means the amount of money we pay in dollars will be significantly higher because our currency has fallen against the dollar. So we have all of those issues. We have the mismanagement of the economy. We have what the development partners call the leakages, which I simply call corruption. Every single time the National Audit Office releases a report, you see so much money being embezzled. And no steps are taken to recover those amounts. So the Gambian people will have to pay for that again. So we get money coming to us in terms of loans, domestic or foreign, which are supposed to be used for our development, and they get lost down the drain. So we don't.
We as Gambians would be able to pay that debt.
At this rate, no, we can't. We can't. But before I answer that question, you see, when we lose those amounts of money, not only we do not get the development we're supposed to get from them in the country, but we still pay for that amount. So we lose twice. You take money, say, to build a bridge or to build a road. You don't build that road, or you build it to very poor quality. Look at all the roads that are being built here. They're all being destroyed in less than a year.
All potholes and all of that.
So you build those roads which become a financial burden on the country because we have to pay huge amounts of money to maintain them, when these roads are supposed to last 20 to 30 years. After 2-3 years, they are already a liability. So we lose on that side. And then we lose on having to refund the amount of money we took. So we are losing twice. Like the Global Fund, 10 million, which was embezzled. We did not get the benefits of that 10 billion. But we're still going to pay back to the Global Fund. So we lose twice. Again, these are the sort of things that are going on in this country. So our economy is in serious trouble. But in spite of all of that, you want us to still spoil that president? I keep saying elections have consequences. When you elect the wrong people to lead a country, you get the wrong results. And you get the wrong things. And you get the wrong economy. And the poor suffer more. It is supposed to be a government elected by the poor people and entrusted with the taxes of the poor people of this country to be able to better their lives, take them to the next stage, not ruin them even more. So that's why the Gambians should look at this situation and say to themselves, we need to change government. We cannot continue in this current situation, or in the next couple of years, this country will be unmanageable. So we have to love ourselves and love our country and do what is required to get the Gambia out of these doldrums and move us to a place where we want to be.
Very well, Doctor. Recently, we have seen most of our youths embarking on illegal migration, which is also known as backway. In that note, most of them lost their lives. And then some are still missing. What will be your take on this?
See, this is a very sad situation.
Indeed.
When it happened, immediately the UDP came out to commiserate with the families who lost their loved ones. But we didn't need to lose these kids. Any government's primary responsibility is to its citizens, their welfare and well-being. What we see in this country is an economy of the privileged few. The privileged few get all the expensive cars bought for them, free fuel, free treatment abroad, free housing, free clothing, and what have you. And the poor Gambians are not getting anything. Our education system is being run into the ground. The last results of the exams, about 9% of the public schools students passed. 9%. Compared to 90% in the private sector. If you have that kind of result, year in, year out, we are sacrificing a whole generation of children who will have very poor education, who will have no skills, and the government is incapable of creating jobs for them. For the past 3 years, what do we hear Adama Barrow saying? I will create 150,000 jobs, which never materialized. He's promised that in 2021, 2022, and again he said he's going to create 150,000 jobs for to prevent the migration through the back way. Well, start making promises and start acting.
Yeah, sure.
Get results. We need to create those jobs for those kids, but this should not just be a wish. It should be based on concrete actions and efforts by the government, and it is doable. With the right policies and determination, it is doable. If I told you about the UDP's 5-point agenda, on which agriculture features prominently. If we take the agricultural sector in this country and we make it a priority, the Gambia government, like many African countries, have signed the Maputo Agreement, in which it was stated that every one of those countries would allocate at least 10% of the revenue, of the budget to agriculture. If we allocate 10% of minimum of our budget to agriculture every year. This year, the budget is about $42 billion. So we'll be allocating $4.2 billion to agriculture. What do you get with $4.8 billion? That is not even enough to get our agriculture sector moving. But if you allocate that, you do what is called leveraging. You use that money to bring in more money to the agricultural sector. If you go to the African Development Bank where I used to work, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, the European Union, the United States, etc., you tell them, look, I have got $4.2 billion I want to invest in agriculture. I want you to come in with me to help us grow this area, and you will have your part of the dividend, the profits. And you present to them good bankable projects. I keep insisting on that. These projects have to be good bankable projects. If you do, you'll attract funding. So our $4.2 billion will be like our equity participation in those projects. If you put $4.2 billion down and say, here is it, I'm going to invest this, what can you do? You can leverage at least 2 to 3 times that amount in addition to the $4.2 billion. So you can bring in $8.4 to $12, $13 billion on top of your 4.2 to work in that area. If you get that amount of money into this small Gambia, you will be able to buy machinery for agriculture. Exactly. Don't ask the youth to go into the field to start using hoes and the like. They won't do it. No. If you bring in agricultural implements, which will do the hoeing for them, the plowing for them, the planting for them, and the harvesting, and they spend more of their time doing other things, they will go back to agriculture. Sure. So we can produce the food we eat. If we produce enough rice in this country, and we can do that in the space of 5 years. If we develop Jahal Pachar, we develop all that area in the CRR. Yes. We don't even need to go to URR or North Bank or Combos. We can produce enough rice in CRR for the whole of the Gambia. Sure. If we do that, what do we spend on importing rice into the Gambia? Rice, oil, and a few other things. We are spending each year between $150 to $200 million. Sorry, dollars. Why do we need to spend that on importation of things that we can grow here? If we save $150 million to $200 million every year to what is called import substitution, what you need to import, you grow that here. You grow the food here. So we grow our rice, we grow our findi, we grow our millet and sorghum. And we produce the food that we eat here. We don't spend that money to buy food from outside. That $150 to $200 million, we use it to invest in other sectors in the country. We have that money. Sure. Let's not use it to buy food. Let's use it to invest in other sectors. We can take part of that, invest in agriculture. We can take part of that, invest in health sector. Part of it in education. For our youth to get scholarships, to go to UTG, to go to the different schools, to be able to develop the skills of our youth. Part of that money again, or from other parts of the budget, you create what is called a youth bank. You create a bank that is going to finance youth projects. You can have it combined, youth and women's projects, because these are the most vulnerable people in the country. Exactly. Put them together. And you make sure that this is managed like a real commercial bank, not some government bank that's going to be looted by people and then they get rich and the intended beneficiaries don't get anything. You manage it like a commercial entity. With the difference that government will subsidize the interest rates. It's called interest rate subsidization. So those people don't have to pay for that. This is going to be for a short period as an incentive. Of course, the partners will tell you, no, you cannot do that, it's unfair competition, but hey, This is our country, and when we are trying to develop those areas, we do what is required. So you give them loans, interest-free, but you monitor properly the implementation. So if you do that, you create a facility for the youth to invest in our own businesses. Somebody can go and produce poultry, and we get fresh chicken in this country, and you will have hundreds of jobs created in that sector alone, in poultry production. You will have like hundreds of jobs created in the marketing, or even thousands of jobs created in the marketing of the poultry products. You will be able to get cold stores for storing those. Those are jobs again created. You will be able to create enough to supply our hotel industry, which is importing all its poultry products from abroad. When you can do it here, other people get into horticulture. They can produce all the vegetables that we need for our consumption, for the hotel industry, for the restaurants. You have a market.
Really help to boost the economy.
Exactly. You have a market. So when you do that, the others will get into ruminants, small ruminants and large ruminants. Some will get into fish farming and aquaculture. Some will get into the processing of rice and selling, etc. So you create this, and you don't just grow the rice and you process it locally. We consume what we can locally, the rest you sell outside. Again, not only you save what you use to right now to import food, you save that and invest it elsewhere, but you earn more foreign exchange from that. And our hotel industry will be cheaper because they won't have to import all that food. They can source it locally and cheaper. So they'll make more profit, and you have more tourists coming because it will be cheaper for the tourists to come. So this is a chain. So on that value chain stretches right across, and you have people working along that value chain all along. So what is the benefit of that? Right now, we have a very few people who are taxed because very few people work. They are taxed constantly when they buy anything for VAT, but they are not taxed on income. But when you do that, you create more jobs. So you have a wider tax base. More people will pay taxes. So you have more taxes coming to the government, more revenue to be able to invest in our budget, etc. And you don't have to tax the people as much as you do now because you need that money. You have a larger pool to tax, so you can charge them less. It's just like supermarkets.
Exactly.
You can sell more, so you sell less. You buy, you sell for less. When you go to buy normally a product on the market which sells small amounts, they charge you more. But when you can sell in bulk, you can sell for less because you have more profit from a large amount. So it's the same thing. So we have a wider pool of people to tax, so we get more revenue from taxation, and less, the volume, the rates of the taxes will be lower. So we have all of that. And which takes me back to the question you asked about the loans. How are we going to pay for that?
Yes.
We cannot. So what we'll need to do when this government changes, we'll have to do what Amadou Sane and Hussein Dabo did in 2017 when they went to negotiate to get debt relief. They negotiated with development partners, including the bank I used to work for, African Development Bank, and we had a round table of donors. So part of the debt was forgiven. It was written off. But part of it was rescheduled. But in addition to that, say, okay, you can't pay for this, so we'll write off a significant chunk. It's written off. The rest we will reschedule, pay over a longer period of time and have grace periods, etc. But in addition to that, we're going to help you because Amadou Sane and Senator will say, yes, that's all very good and we appreciate it. But in addition to that, we need more help because we have to be able to invest as well.
Sure.
So we were given additional assistance as well. So not only our debt was forgiven for the large amount of it, but we were given an additional $1.7 billion pledge to the Gambia. So, okay, we're going to give you this. We know that when they pledge 1.7 billion, you're not going to get all the 1.7 billion.
No.
But you'll get 1.4, 1.5 billion.
At least.
Which is already a lot.
Sure.
If you get that into this country and you do the same leveraging I've been talking about, you can leverage in another $4 to $5 billion on top of that. And you use that to develop this country. Imagine if we had invested $1.7 billion in this country over that 3-year period. The results would have been different. The Gambia would have been talking something different today.
Sure.
But we didn't get that money. When the government started going rogue and the bus drivers, he called himself, started firing people from the bus, the loan stopped, the money stopped coming. So we got only over 300 million from that 1.7 billion. So we lost there too. So we will have to go again and do that because we have to be realistic. There's no way we're going to be able to pay these loans. And the IMF and World Bank should stop giving them money just unconditionally. Well, it's not unconditionally, but it's really going not the right way. We should be much more demanding on this government because they are just increasing the country's debt level and we're not getting anything in return for that. Now they are selling and mortgaging our assets. The Senegambia bridge has been mortgaged for a 25-year period for a pittance, $100 million. When that bridge can produce $300 million over the same period. Part of the port is being concessioned out. They're talking of doing the same thing for the ferries. What else are they going to concession out? They can concession the port, they can concession the airport, they can concession the Nawek, all our strategic infrastructure. Today we are dependent on Senegal and car power for our electricity supply. These are strategic assets and areas where we need to be independent. We saw it in Niger. When the coup took place in Niger and ECOWAS decided to sanction Nigeria cut off electricity supply to Niger.
Yes.
So 70% of electricity of Niger was gone. Imagine the suffering they are going through right now. I have friends in Niger. When I talk to them, it's miserable. So we need to learn from those things and be independent energetically from our energy resources. We must be independent. And we can do that. Instead of paying all the money we pay to those people, let's invest it in Nawek. And we come up with better. Just like I said, the money they spend for treating our civil servants abroad, invest it in the hospitals.
And educational assistance.
Exactly. So these are the areas we're talking about in the UDP, and we say we have to do these things and do it differently. Yeah.
In your own view, could you tell us the reasons, that forced these youths to venture into this journey, which is the bad way?
Yes, good. I almost missed that. Yes, they are desperate. When you sit home, a number of these people have gone to at least secondary school. Some have even gone to universities. Exactly. You have your qualifications. You leave that. You can't get a job. You're sitting home. You see your parents who invested so much in you and hope that you will be able to take care of them at that point. And you cannot do that, even that basic minimum for them, not even for yourself, let alone your parents. And you see no horizon, nothing on the horizon, no change in sight, no possibility of you getting a job and doing something. If you train them properly, if they cannot get a job in the offices, they can create their own jobs.
Some of them even have these skills. Some of them are even tailors.
Exactly.
So on.
Exactly. I mean, I repeated several times on the different programs I was on, tough construction. We went to Gambia school together. Tough, had a calling for what he's doing. He didn't go into this other academic side. He went into technical side. Tough and the Co were the first people in the Gambia to do woodwork at all levels. And they took it forward. He went to study and did other things. Today he is one of the wealthiest Gambians. He's made a very wonderful name for himself inside Africa. We can have more toughs in the Gambia if you train our people in those technical areas. Tough is employing a lot of foreigners to do work with him here because we don't have the skills locally. If you train our youth, Tough alone can employ quite a number of those people. And we can have other Toughs coming up. That's what we need to do. Create that emulation. Tough should be an emulation for those people if you give them the right skills and right training. There are many cases like that. We can have more Gambians succeeding if you give them the training and you give them the support to set up their own industries and you mentor them. You don't just throw them into a deep end and say swim. No. Attach them to TAF. Attach them to other successful business people in the country. The private sector has to be the engine of growth of the country. But you have to create the enabling environment for that. You have to create the funding and the resources they need to be able to start their business and grow. You have to create the tax environment which will allow them a number of years of grace period to be able to grow and help them along as they move. All of that must be done, and it must be done properly. It cannot just happen by itself. So if those youth have those possibilities of getting employment here, because the government has created jobs in agriculture, in hotel industry, in IT, in all other sectors which is possible, they will create their own jobs if they don't get employed. And they will live a decent life. If they do, they're going nowhere. But if they don't see any chance of getting a job or getting a decent living, a number of them tell you, what do I lose? If I stay here, I die.
Exactly.
I might as well try something else. How do you counter that? You can't counter that. Because they don't have anything to show them that they can have something here. It is painful to see these kids risk their life, knowing that there's a strong possibility I will die. But they still go. That shows a level of desperation. And we cannot and must not put our kids in that situation. These are our sons, our nephews, our brothers and sisters. Come on, we can do better than that.
So if you come into power,
yeah,
what will be the mechanisms that will put in place to put an end to this manner?
It will be multi-pronged. One would be proper training and education for the youth.
Okay.
To make them employable. I say people like TAF cannot get the right people because the trainings are not there. Create those proper kind of training for the Gambian youth to be able to get employment. Create skill centers and centers of excellence where they will learn trades and all sorts of jobs that they can create for themselves. It can be in different sectors of the economy where they can create their own industries, their own jobs. You do that. 3, you create the funding required for them to start their own businesses and thrive. 4, you get the mentoring that's going to help them to move along, because you have to keep, they are young, they don't have experience. So you need to be able to help them to go along, and you work with them continuously and adjust and review and recalibrate as they move along. So they'll make mistakes. And they'll learn from those mistakes. If you help them, they grow from that. If you don't, they're probably going to end up in the wall. But if you train and work with them and mentor them and train them and assist them, they will grow and they learn from their mistakes and move on. And they will be able to train other people. So that's replication effect. Okay? You create now a legislation which will give them that enabling environment, which will allow them to do their businesses and thrive. So you have all of these things coming into play. And then whatever resources you have locally, you combine that with what you get from outside to be able to grow that capacity locally. And you move some into the export sector. So you have people all down that value chain, from the production of rice, of poultry, of fish, of whatever, all the way to the market. People will be working all along that value chain. So you create jobs all along that value chain. And you will create other jobs in the tertiary sector with that. Because if you have that, you will need certain other things. You will need power for your farm, for your whatever. There are kids right now doing a lot of woodworking solar.
Sure.
You create more jobs for those people as well. They will go install solar lamps, solar facilities in the farms. Well. Exactly. They would do that. So they create jobs for them. You will need people who will do the marketing, transportation there. So you get more vehicles on the road and more people getting jobs from that too. You will get people working in the farms to create the metallic structures needed, the irrigation structures needed. Okay. So it's a whole chain that will come with it. So every one of those sectors will create jobs. And once those young folks see Ablai and Binta and Fatu and Khorija and Khoj, see them succeeding in that area, say, hey, wait, why not me?
Exactly.
They will go and do the same thing.
Sure.
And then you help pull them and move them out. We have a small market in the Gambia. But luckily, we have what is called the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Now Africa is one big market. So we can export outside Africa. We are part of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We can export outside Africa. We take advantage of that. Gambia produces at very low costs. What we call farm gate prices, our products coming out of the farm are cheaper than most other countries in Africa. If we do that, at that point there's need to create more road infrastructure to be able to move the goods out and to sell them and the ports, etc. So you create jobs for the roads, you create jobs for the ports, you create jobs for every sector. So you are creating more jobs. This is a holistic approach. You don't just take one sector, it's a holistic approach. And this is what we have in our 5-point agenda. This is what we need to do, and this is what we have been working on for all these years. Each year we look at it, we try to cost it, we try to view it. UDP coming to government will hit the ground running. We have got these programs. We work on them. We refine them. We review them in light of the circumstances of the economy. The 150,000 jobs has been promising for 3 years. We will do it. It's doable. But it didn't happen just like that. You don't snap your fingers, it happens.
No.
You plan it. You get it. You get people to run this thing.
It has to be a long-term plan.
Exactly. But for that, you have the short, the medium, and long term. In the short term, we've got to be able to create that 50 to 100,000 jobs for the kids. In the short term, in the 2-3 years, so that and that's what's lacking in this country. The National Development Plan is nowhere to be seen. You see, a government must be run as a commercial entity, as a serious outfit. You cannot just run it as amateurs. You cannot run it for a few. You run it for the whole country. If you do, any government that comes into this country and runs it like the way we want to do it for the UDP, you wouldn't need to campaign much in the subsequent elections. Because people will see the impact you have on their lives. You say, when they see you do that, and they see you change their lives, they will know this is what we've been wanting all along. They will vote for you.
Sure.
So we will get there. But that has to start with elections and electing the proper people in government. What we are going through in the country right now, everybody sees it. The hardship, everybody sees it. Everybody who goes to the market, everybody who gives out money to go to the market, everybody who pays school fees, etc., who buys Nawe cash power, you know what it's like. Can we continue like that?
No.
Certainly not. So we've got to change that situation. To conclude on that, we saw the road clearing exercises recently.
Yeah, we will come to that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Fine TV lem telebonga mialan ko ajarta ka jibe bidum ning luntang bunyari bale jang menketa United Democratic Party la Deputy Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora menketa Dr. Lamin Manneh na kuja male kachaja membe dending bankola tanya tola Dr. Silambela fla ngadum kacha kono hanisai naje non president wala speak to ala program moto aya fonungo UDP muhasiri patilti and then fana niaji be fana ngala pati opponent soldier melialon ko o fana ka ko UDP mandiga patilti it is a munofono dum koto ngalon ko ni allegation alon ko al political opponents ko le fal
yalo ntole di atal ron so fefendo si wolankan But you don't need to prove anything. Mimbe keri ko kambenga jele. UDP. Male UDP lo. PPP, NCP, GPP. PPP Gambia belebe nunji. Manden kol bijere surwal bijere fulol bijere jolal sarahulelu manjago belebe nunji. GPP Asan Musa Kamara alma kabar nema kelay. Mutam wonna fula dole fulole manala mol data etc. NCP fana mo belebe Gambia mo belebe bijere. Wole be UDP. Be UDP Hussein Dabo is the Secretary General and Party Leader. Number 2, the Deputy Secretary, Musolem, Surwa, Ajiyam Sek. Ntolle ka na patio, nka mobile ndiye not just siolu, but musol ninkewlu funding kewlu ninkebal. The top echelon, musol jibe mjelle bije, Ajiyam ndaw bije. National President. Aji Amsek Bije, Deputy Secretary General Party Leader. Aji Sukainaka. They are women at the top. In Kiolve Nyokan Yesai. Then funding Kiol Bije. Na Fonkol Jibe. The West Coast Minjang. The chairman, Yankuba Dabo. He's a young man. KMC, Talib Bensouda. He's a young man. Banyul, Rohim Alik Lo. He's a young lady. LRR, Landin Sane, is a young guy. Na Namsnyul, Landin Sane, Lamin Sane, ML Ba. Funding Kyole Farinje. And the only party Milam Sosu to me ye Tombong, Kake party la senior position. The mayor of the capital city Banjul, Musolem, Ntolenga Alondi. The name for Sane Maintain the biggest constituency in the Gambia, Musolem Fat Sham. Ntolenga Alondi. And the Musufulo do come in a mobe agel. But I'm doing a parliament, assembly, being agel. Rohimali do do na Banjul being agel. So, party mi o beke. Ikana ikaloka for yeko or manika party lady. I want to try Bi tolle ka tribalism samba na nyimbanko kam mansula wala nyimbanko kam nye janju banko jube jangambien tolle ka futu nyoyen tolle ka tadlalbe Senu Dabola musuflo mo manki manden koti kono so wasi ba no nyin sidol ala musuto musurwaleti asiba do suratu nyadile adigol de half man dinka half wolof anu le farne parti kono Mili modul fudu ma kesi kilindi because wala Gambia so umankata UDP like can go for the book and Tokuya drum because we are jam for a long time look at UDP Tokuya yole mutadong manika party Bukan Tokuya bukan nenyin sidol mutakinyola panto man so wala Katung Gambia mbele tanyi Gambia ne manden ko bando Gambia manke manne ba Gambia to ko de ni sura bu jam ko anke Gambia ko ne fulu bu ni sarhul ni bon yeto amanke wote so wote ke no lan to man so what tribalism lela be balandi wala so Gambia UDP manke sarhul man ke parti wala parti do ko tek Gambia di wala parti lam that's one two ako Gambia UDP mo khasidi parti de mo khasidi yala wala ada fa wota UDP wa fa mo khasido le hasido wala momi yalon ko amala fi moko tenna nyato tala ne ala betea ara UDP ka mun kelen ko le hani na Gambia do ku fom be si fen soto je mbe yala nyanto soto je o manke hasido de ito be min nabito la politiko yalla na ke bal dul ka fa hant politiko ndati je politiko no tale ka tu wala mun be je mako nga baraketi ka wala ntol ko le hani nanga deng na do ko ke yem maka ngay maka nyo mako yi ni banko bi def mbesi na nyanto soto ji hasido to kala ni ko tinyaro ko nga tinyaro bay ni banko kan fu mo besi nyanto soto nga senelal mako yi fo si la nyanto soto no senelal ma nyana kala fu waroti atmata ngo nga funding kewul mako yi katu wala mo banko la nyato ti sama hasido to kala ngo nga fereke nga banko dingol mako e fusi jarabe to soto si karambe to soto e londi be to soto e tanyo to soto no hasido tew kela asido ka fere mfa don te ndamma bi Usain Dabo ninga man dum nyim politiko na la ko do be ke nam yem fere wonte nyenti Usain Dabo la ko do be babul nu nga tambita siyal ay ko do ta ala kordalu ala fengol ke wa for kanyim pati balundi ay bo la fengo beto pour nyim pati yo andu wolte bana UDP kon miliye bo la fengo to pour kanyim banko ma koy sa ko ngata ga fa birna dan ko retire sa nga si nganda bo dije ngana ko do enjoy waran ko le hani ite ning a tete ira banko kan ira mul kanu ila tar la siring ila nebo ila badi wol ibe bata kono ite be siri ite be comfortable de ita keno so nga banko ma ko mbenga finti mbenga fen soto non mbenga balu nya sahari wala do si kenole hasido bi ke mira wala so ka hasidi ya lanka yan ko ka fme projection imu minti e camera mo be mo wala e kaminke camera mo be ka wala itul hasidi ya la jang e kuya hasidi ya lan tuluga hani Allah hasidi ya la ta ntul man la fala you see so bari ni Usain mu hasidoti no wato min na 2021 suñaro keten na election results no nga o fala mo alifinti ni du ñola na banko jami bari hani akoyele ko hani man fi moye fa ay ka mol man fuka den kilo le parce que laftele banko e ta ñaato na banko doku mo be na fasoto je mo yelo kana bonje mo din kana faje mo din kana yemanje ko min ka kenum before hasido biko fanan keno so hasido yate e UDP so be mo ko don pour ka molu borendinna bari yalo ni be sonle kala mi problème wolde mi ko kacha ko teke suñaro be kerin to kacha la ti ñaro be kerin to kacha la ko teke en so en pia yon ko le min fa han ka kese mo jabato do kacha la ko teke kujuma be jemi ka be kerin nyata bir kacha la nga jubi bo kala nyaa fo ba ko samba ñaro ndol kacha la bu nañu sonko la ñu kaja fodro lafta man di golda mal hay mo hasidol leti dum ñu sabola wala gina ñin to mal ngoy hani dol nal sonkala wala ndol kole ko alna nga ñu seya banku do ko wala alna liya fa ñu banku do ko la ñamen nga ñu sabola nga ka wala banku samba ñaaro ndol be wole to ndol mantara sonka tu kuto mantara hasidiya kuto mantara kele kuto ndol ko nga banku do ko ta ñaato mo be la ñaan to soto je wala mun to donc fankawte kan distract le doro
doctor okay penko to budget to afinda non koman tilantan koman to ngaje president wala office to ko jama lota me alon ka den president wala office o damal ana ko do ni siata baga
yes
and then nyaji be doctor na doctor no bije mel yalon ko borol bu ka soto je ikata fan yesasa yetiketo san dala simoni lul boro at the end of the day bukana bode fo sita formation riyasan jena karambundal fana jibe problème wol fana min biji asiata ina dunna marcel fana ko nin kudoto fo te yadre does it really make sense nin ko dibal mel yalo ko yo londe president officer and then banko di ngol batane te buno sota so nyento
ngamin soto je wala parliament manyana nyim budgeto vote la inyantale ya kuntu kende ke ya jube jan tambitale nda kala ngaw tala jam fana man nyanta kala yo man si ngaw kafu that matter president's office serum ye million keme woro million tanse je wala diala ñina million keme fula lawo kan ñina million keme sey million tawro wala nim fula ko di president's office woni ngana dañino man kilo luwole ka wuli kemen nin talulo min dañino fana oni o man killing oni ngam motolo man killing ani ngal dañino lu ani ngal feto fatolo ani ngal tamolu be yo be raño ko yo di mo killing na la mo dan ta office why hanela state guard fon milka kanta tabo jeto jube jina jelle dira million talulo nin fula yo le di wol agriculture be Gambia bela agriculture ye million keme se tan nani nande diwala
na ba nyama fa wol fo nyanta fantasia la message sa senelal fana mako no nyama
exactly so jani be wuli amonta be agriculture yemin di president office la asset agriculture 30 million tan sabala president do morod anal al office da ma wala ko do seta yemin di Gambia bel agriculture la president's office million kemesey million tawro wala anim fula kemesey tawro wala anim fula agriculture wuli kemesey wuli tannani anin nani million kemesey million tannani nani. So president office la ko wol ser agriculture beti Gambia be agriculture. That doesn't make sense. Mo manya ne mira la wala. Yes, see. Eko nyinang Ministry of Finance. The billion fula le dila wala ani million talul nim fula. Billion wala ni million konti fo sinya wuli killing. Wala billion. Amunta million wuli fula ani million talulu nim fula yow di Ministry of Finance la pour mu wala ka mu ne ke mi ara nyato ko do be di la wala ila do ko mu ne te mi ara ko ay so deserve ila miti wala manin tama bambalo nani sura ko do be la nani do talala ya di agriculture la Ministry of External Affairs ila budget billion killing and a million kime wala anin tanin fula o mo jafa billion fula la ko dek why nani embassy min yalon ko e man nafa kesela embassy tala ye mol mi je ye tala ye ko do ta yadu ni agriculture to yadu di karamoto yadu di l'hôpital wole banko nafa infrastructure sila do ko billion fula ani million keme kononto ani feng yol dundi woto yol dundi lawta silol are important silol nafa warata silol nafa warata bari na menan tamo kuma sai ka do moro la folo ge kono fa memmun na sula folol tinga wol folol tapato sinata nyen do silo onte sonta ka silo do ko sonta ka bar sila betol amukin sila furi ngolti silo be mela ajube jawara silo min lo kata banjo o ser sanita saboto ka betere exactly so sila façon le son sula ta wala le bar jani bol mala do mo ro folo to foto mo Gambia di woni e balu so folo balu nyima yele jata kende asoto deni silo lawo kam so nyim budget min bije o foma façon ka tada marete kaatu budget o man ta kule feren ye wuli taworo bondije million taworo bondije e ko nin sasata sayin momo sasa ministre ni sino civil sabarzon bite jar la bantanyenel
o yenda kala
no bekela amanya na kala Gambia di wulu nul tal tan rek am foto ye mo woni lu jogi kaytu ko ta borosa ñin do li sasata ye ñolé sama tubabu do te jaraje Fatoumata ni ko momo sasari be jara la jande lu tanol do kulale o million taworo seru jelle di seru ipurata safu ñanan 2023 million tannani wala lan ko pour ni sasari be jara la men na badda jari tay ko million taworo o fulo ka fu ñam million kemela woti ni million kemota yadu na lopitanol do me min fala wonte ñi
mo be se jara no jam
ni million kemota ye million mu wanta ye machine sa comme dialysis machine ñul x-ray ana ñi do yol landi ye million tannanta yo sam borol la ye million tannandota yenna no sol ni na doctorol karandi wala ye specialize do leke heart surgeon do leke orthopedic surgeon do leke midwife anesthesia ye karandi wala banko nafa saji mubi si jaro soto jam
akenda
manasa hayari bari hani ita ko butu masakunda da nyaatu kunu kumba luul sa mi jar la bande fontol to mo dizar Gambia di wol ning UDP falenta wala folo falenna UDP se wala folo falenna katum banku dum be nyanta nyando sot la janne mo be nyanta jar la janne nyama sakunda mo te jar la bande ni te jar la bande fo ya jo ko do dum na ni ko ni ofo lopitano do kula
katunga banko do je to habdu banko ga miyalon ko lopitano fonto je ka minister fon je inin banko dingol fon tan be kita lopitan kin wala
ko ide hanyila yeta tubabu du o America ko president jar la bantale hita eno fala fa ka to banko mi ya dila wala lopitano be tle ko inda wala du kula mo be jar lo sodo je not ko te jar bantale ni o ke mo be jar lo sodo le jana ba na tay ko ni sa be jar la bantale tan tomato ba ni o ke nsi lopitano be du sawo sang ni kaw million taw worota e ka lopitano nem fula wonta nyindi covid na to watmina ko do min na tajan ni be dum lopitano be min fula wonta nyindi
nga mono fon president ala watambela wo time o nyina ko man to ka holon ko do gadu na gambe ni ko do dunta ni no fon hani nyam ko be ba kibaro mo but then bin ko do dunta mo man na kibaro mo kuma jama to ba hani sa man na
because yala fu watmina wolen kanyi 1.7 billion ni paro man na dun kara ti nyaro berak masa ti nyaro do moli o le bulo muta bare min ta covid o siyata bakel wajin banko lopitano be do kule no bare ya be yemande odi report ya bondi ñin nan kam la filta ngame la million keme woro something like wala filta imam mo arrest wala imam mo kitine fu sayde mu sabata de wol maske prosecute lu ñenta man fensi dawo dañi masa kunda ko safa odi safa ko do filta jam ko do man kita jam abika filika suñale non de ko prosecute ko do mu ronna banko ka look Gambia be mbele je e tambindi wala kama so kana so mole tulun na fulo wala kana so mole tulun na bankola so nyem budgeto e manyen ke pour Gambia dingol ya kele pour mo dantang na nafa ana manya kala nyama
katu hansa fan budgeto nyem fon kono ni ajibe fa ye million talul 50 million ya lundi pour man sekundaye pour in case ni ning banko di ngon dunta nyola foitara luwato ni woli e bondi e bol compensate la ko do men million talul
yes
si amero ko do nyinga man ke ko si falo pour certain issues
ici ning man sekundaye o commence diron tinyara we continuer dale katu mo be kuru yakare ko an ngake solle barel nan tanaten non sele ba jola
Bari already I was suffering kai to mo yajen
bar ni nga ba nyama ni mi wuti nyarol ke nyante fon folo mutala ni muta na luwa le kan ni oke mo be til na silole ite sulalo ko do pour que compensation oke compensation nyanta dami ka mol mi na kordali boy ibe mo la dulal tinyala okay
okay comme ngaje iba faka operation clear the road yo fana jibe ngaje le banjul men kata je kami feng serkunda but then men kata brikama jang doctor ni ajibe because equal clear the road operation clear the road but brikama kono moli ajele idum dafa marché o kono bitko dol boy me yalon fam jama ba fala ko wol man nyanga boy because equal silo kam pour na mana janjama because biro ko fam we mo jama ni o sewoni parce que bela to mena pour na mano se free nyamen ke say movement o nyi say easy no blokam dan ngaji brikama bitko boyta ku jama kata je is that really fair?
It's not fair.
Jama fana afaka ko bitko fana agima
isi nyin kasilul fanondi mbe sula dawlale pour si tamano nyama atan hajul kan kana tarde baake barni fana mbekela mil ba frelo silul kan Gambia di won lem ikela balu soto woledo kel dimbal dañi ni woledo ni ba kala wol fana ni ma koy yedula da de mi yalon ko ni wulindi je bita sira wolte do ita wa fero ke woto fansi dimbal balum dino ba ni tata yo wulindi ro ye ko alta albuja ye bay yela fewol tey yela bitikol tey yela dulal betinya ko bi dimbal balum la nyaade ñente bala fala wolle kat wolle carte fayi wolle sindi wolle masakundal ta masakundade yesi lol fan sul sila fan wonla bar bil fanan bi jere ñan to dila inen kansole do ko ke af kansole ko sabe mo wul la jam mako na le den alib la identify ngali mako ngam bulo fayal kan marcel do kuje mo le sawwoto ya foy ko ñin bla kare be ñin ñin bondi la je ni saundi jan so ni ke moli jan ni sel yela bitikol te yela fon kolte kanya ni kana ni martol e molla bitikol tela e be barol tela e be korgetol farala nan woni nan ya u ba utula jele ya samutol wasi ya samawul la kutoto eta loje kene tinyaro in 1 week isinalo yela fon saundi ko te saw marse kutoto wala musiloti marse o kono e kam ni marse o kono silo man ta marse o kono marse ko niya tete amera ko jeman do kuku because maybe kurangol Kenya tiny council do kuke council man ke man sakunda jawoti inyanta wala lonna inin council ni do kuke council fana mu government le molle karte fayi al blodu nyumul wala do kuke ali mo gambe de ngol tahande nsulata wala man sula council kelola kat bini ni wala kamulo yedum sate ko ne silul clair foi ta marché fana ko kata mo la hanim pasal ka sida min ni moto ka sida min yo famul betay pour mo yedol yo ni marché ba kawiye malu de famul tele foko kontani ka te kontano ko kana molu ko mondi 15 man sa kunde ila do ku folo wala ka gambe de ngolul ke topato ke la nyantol dila ke la balul sono yandi ke nyafita wala masakundala do koti masakundala do kuma ka gambe dingol kumbondi masakundala do kuma ka gambe dingol torandi inyanta jele jubela so kana nyofa so sofa silul kana stop kana silul bita fimman tamano wala kana fanan la bisu so mananti fo de bayal topato no la so nyanta jele jubela ye balan soto je momo yi fen soto je momo yi dimba balundino
tatu niya jibe fan yenying mol men fana wulindi marché kono je because wol fana ka namul jo cancel
yes
so ba jalo ko mol bota je salam so cancel fana nya jibe namul men collect ni let's say na kata tilo kono e ka maybe virtual wulle soto so ba jalo bina be kala mina sa so mol tije salam na cancel fana batan la bajala da maybe brikama ide council fana nyata fana bina nasibila sila ko male
yes and what am anten niya jube wol men be wafiro do tar ni microfinance institution lato e ko do don to je pour que la business oli niya wol wulendi tol jono la ni mo jono microfinance institutional ni banque ni ko don to roke fana problème wol soto katu mo li juro tete jono la ko tek ni wol man joro kiso fana fole la profitol wol min ka wafiro ka je mo la fa order ka sambana e ko wol min order o fana ka wole wafi so ni mo wafiro ka mi le order rinke e fa wonte wafila o fana photo ko dol mi le order rinke fana ka juro ta bank pour ka fa ngol order ite bank jono la ko ta jono la on time ila problème o e kafu ila joro e kafu